So I've been saying for quite some time, we got to get this Liberal government out early before the next election, and we need to do that by getting sufficient numbers of the opposition MPs on the side of the Conservative official opposition. Now, everybody can tell you that. But how do we do that? Well, I think the carbon tax might be doing that. Clearly, this is affecting, the carbon tax is affecting Justin Trudeau. Have a look at this here. His approval rate is plummeting. His disapproval rate is increasing. And this was the big story yesterday. Jagmeet Singh has backpedaled, as this Toronto Star article, and he might have gone too far publicly, because he talked about, well, we're really not in favor of a carbon tax that penalizes consumers. Yeah, we love the idea of having something that fights climate change, although the carbon tax does nothing to fight climate change, and I've said that repeatedly. But he said this yesterday.
Well, what we want to do is we want to lay out our vision, a new Democrat vision for how we tackle the climate crisis. And the thing that we are noticing is that we need big polluters to pay their fair share. We want to stop big polluters, and we want to make sure there's a cost to that pollution, so that we've got to stop them. We need government to take real action. It can't just be that our only approach to fighting the climate crisis is using free market solutions. That is not sufficient to meet the seriousness of what we're up against. And we also don't want this to turn into a question for everyday people that, am I worried about affordability or am I worried about the climate crisis? I don't want that to be the choice that workers and people are having to struggle with. I don't want the burden to fall on working people. So we want to lay out our plan.
Yeah, so what is your plan, Jagmeet? Well, he doesn't really have a plan. He just knows he has to do something quickly here, because the NDP is losing traction. They're losing support. And that's why 6 MPs are not running again. And this is what the Conservative Party says. They are in a quandary about supporting this carbon tax or not, because they're losing tremendous support. They could be wiped out in the next federal election. Very, very possible. So Trudeau got wind of this and said, oh, am I losing my coalition partner? Am I going to have to rely exclusively on the Bloc Québécois, the separatists? Am I losing my socialist contingent? So Trudeau was a little bit upset. So he says he doesn't understand Jagmeet's point. What's he complaining about? Because Trudeau is sticking to the carbon tax until his political demise. He is not going to move from it. I'm telling you that now. He is going to stick to the carbon tax, or as he calls it, the Canadian carbon rebate, which is farcical nonsense, a ridiculous euphemism for an odious, onerous tax that is impoverishing Canadians and doing nothing to reduce those so-called greenhouse gases that are creating this apocalyptic climate change that we all read about and hear about, which of course isn't happening to that degree. And even if climate change is anthropocentric, meaning centered upon humanity, we could all live in caves tomorrow in Canada and it would not affect the global carbon footprint, because Canada produces about 1.2% of those greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a farce. And since we've introduced the carbon tax in Canada, our greenhouse gas emissions have actually increased. So it's not doing anything except taxing us, right? So I'm going to play a bit of this. This is Trudeau really complaining.
It's not just politicians, it's people as well. A new poll by Liaison Strategies found a majority of Ontario residents rank the cost of living higher than environmental protections, and a plurality are in favor of abolishing the price on carbon, even if it means eliminating their personal carbon price rebate. So can you tell Ontarians why your government's price on carbon is more important than their ability to make ends meet?
But the way we price carbon actually puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 families, like families in Ontario, where the cost of living is high and where...
All right. Do you believe do you believe that this chronic liar is continuing to tell Canadians that 8 out of 10 of us are getting more back from the carbon tax in our pockets than we're putting out in taxation? It's a lie. The parliamentary budget officer said exactly the opposite in his most recent assessment. Trudeau is hearkening back to an old report that probably wasn't even accurate then, but it's been superseded by new information that says, well, no, Canadians are paying much more in tax than they're getting back in a rebate. And it's a foolhardy way of running a country anyway. Robbing you of money with one hand, giving you back a little less with the other, or a lot less with the other. What a stupid way to run a country, when in fact the tax achieves absolutely nothing. And it's not revenue neutral. And it's absolutely not. We'll hear a bit more of this crybaby.
The need to fight climate change is clear with every wildfire, with every flood, with every drought.
Lies again. Wildfires, floods, droughts have nothing to do with climate change, and he knows it.
The parliamentary budget officer confirmed that 8 out of 10 families get more money from the way we're pricing pollution because we...
Carbon's not pollution. Not at all. That is a complete falsehood. And once again, he repeats the lie. But 8 out of 10 Canadians are getting more back. I can't stand much more. We'll listen to it.
Put a price on pollution, and then we give that money back to Canadians.
Okay, you're not giving it back to Canadians, and you know you're not giving it back to Canadians. No. So we've seen that one, and this is. So what happened since Jugmeat decided he doesn't like the carbon tax anymore? Well, in a statement issued to CBC, Singh said the NDP has not changed its position on the consumer carbon price. What we have done is commit to building a climate plan to make big polluters pay, bring down costs for Canadians, meet our emissions targets, and unify people in taking on the climate crisis. That's not a plan. That's a wish. So he has changed his tune because he's making Canadians pay. He's not doing these things with supporting Trudeau's carbon rebate or Trudeau's carbon tax. So this is all BS. Obviously, somebody got to Jugmeat and said, hey, perhaps Trudeau, and said, hey, if you don't stay with us on this issue, you're not going to get your goodies in the April 16th budget next week because it hasn't been read yet. It hasn't been released yet, and we can still make changes. And maybe you're going to lose some of the things you promised your supporters. I can guarantee you that's what happened yesterday afternoon. And yes, it was probably Trudeau and Jugmeat meeting tete-a-tete in his office. But will it survive past the budget? This is the question. This is the question because everything can be up for grabs after the budget. And Jagmeet Singh is going to be fighting for his job. I don't know if he really wants it anymore. But the NDP is going to be fighting for survival because it's tethered to the Liberals on the carbon tax and a variety of other issues. And of course, it pretends to be an opposition party, while at the same time it's a coalition partner. Maybe it's not officially a coalition partner, but it's a de facto coalition partner. So they have been maintaining this game, this farce now for a couple of years, where they basically stand up in the House every day during question period, lob softball questions largely at Trudeau and his ministers, and they get nice collegial responses about, thank you, my good colleague, for asking that question. And I want to applaud your good work on this file. That is a typical response during question period. Occasionally you'll get some tough questions like on Gaza or on, well, actually, I can't think of much. Sometimes housing. But those are kept to a minimum because clearly these people are working together. And any pretense of opposing the Trudeau government is simply an illusion. And it's trying to fool NDP supporters and thinking they can have their cake and eat it too. You can prop up the Trudeau government, and at the same time, you can be a critic. You can be critical of the excesses. You can be critical of where the Liberals are going or taking the country, even though you're going in the same direction. So I don't have a lot of time for Jagmeet Singh. I don't have a lot of time for the NDP today. They're a phony party in every aspect, every respect. Jagmeet Singh, with his BMWs and Gucci bags, has nothing in common and has really no relevance to working class people, blue collar workers. He's never probably even met one socially. He might see them at campaign stops, but he is so distant from ordinary Canadians that it's really a joke that he should be leading the NDP. And the NDP, of course, is in a life and death struggle with the Conservatives for the blue collar vote, for the working class vote, largely because Pierre Poilievre made a very, very courageous stand during the Freedom Convoy and came out in support of the truckers.
Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.